because they're not all Helen Keller. I've met, in my 27-year career, I've met 4 children who were completely deaf and completely blind. And to be honest, I think that's a lot. That was during my teaching time. But say you have a child who has no vision. So you may use tangible, real objects, like a spoon, so that they can feel to expect they're about to eat, a cup, a ball, toothbrush, hairbrush, washcloth, bib, diaper, any of the real object things. You want to think about what they're going to have. I will say there's one thing, and I doubt that this happens in your guys' world because it would be a choking hazard anyways, but I do not believe in miniatures because miniatures are not symbolic of what you really feel. I'll give you an example. Now, this student of mine, it was my very first completely deafblind student, and I had to make him, I think he was 13, I had to make him a communication book, so where he went around. So we were talking about the bus. One of my very well-meaning friends was like, oh, I've got a bus matchbox I can bring for you. And I was like, yeah, that means nothing to him. Because when he's on the bus, what does he feel? So I was like, getting on the bus, I was like, well, I'm not gonna take this stainless pipe and give it to him, because he was a thrower. So we found part of the webbing of the seatbelt that he wore. And I went over to our transportation department, and they had an old one, and they cut it up for me, and it worked great. So sometimes, you just have to kind of put yourself in their shoes and feel what they might be feeling, and get creative a little bit. Has anybody else used real objects or any of these with their kids? Okay, I see my school friends back there. Any early intervention friends? Have y'all used any of these with your kids? Maybe? No, thinking about it. Okay, so object cues. So, since I also work for the CAP team, which is the Center for Assistive Technology Training, which is in partnership with the American Printing House for the Blind, we also use projects like the STACS. It's a standardized tactile communication system. And any child who has a vision loss qualifies, and this entire set comes free. And it's really just nice because it's already pre-made for you. Now, caveat, little bitty hands, this is too big for them. We would want to start out with something smaller if we had little bitty hands. But as we grew older, so also while we're talking about CAP program, if any of you guys need light boxes or anything like that to work with your kiddos with, please reach out to me. That is something that we do. And if you did not know that already, I know I sent some, who did I send recently? Maybe it was a case manager. I know I just sent some out. So, as you can see, like there's examples like Grant and I went and saw a student through outreach, and the student had no true way of communicating. And so we took the STACS symbols and we were explaining it to the teachers, and the next step is for the teachers to follow through. So if we could get that magic idea of how to get that to happen, that'd be great. All right, so next steps, because we're talking about pre-communication, because many times with our infants and babies, we don't know that they may have dual sensory loss this young. I mean, how many of your kids don't get diagnosed until they're about to age out? Or how many have so many other health impairments, if it's charge or other, so many chromosomal deletions now where we can have genetic testing. We don't know what's coming next. So, but just some of the next steps, if you are, of course, signing. And signing for a truly deafblind child is hand under hand. So even though you have that big hand, you want to put it underneath that baby and let them feel it. It's you know, in the beginning, it's hard, and sometimes you gotta get down in their little world, but that's how it's got to be. It's never, and let me say that again, it is never hand over hand. So, sometimes, you know, if you're having to make an approximation, you may have to help a little bit, but especially for a deafblind baby, their hands are everything. They're not just their eyes, they're their ears, they're everything. Object symbols, picture symbols, if there's functional vision left, and a combination of any of the above. I think I'm preaching to the choir with the last statement, supporting families in their decisions on how to communicate with their infants. I think that's completely what we're about, period. Here are the resources, and you will be getting the entire PowerPoint. And here is my hi, hello, and with my email and my phone number and everything, which just call my work cell if you need me, because I'll be in Maine in 2 weeks. So, always on the road, but loving it. Yeah, I don't mess people up when it comes to lunch. I'm telling you. I knew I would talk fast. Questions, ideas. Yeah. And does anybody have any questions? I know. Yes, Michelle.
Can you go back one slide?
Absolutely. Yeah, the HOA modules for interveners.
They're
Yeah.
so great for parents too, as a starting point.
They are, they truly are, but the only advice I would give with that is make sure you've reviewed them too, because we don't want to overwhelm our parents. Because if that parent is at that point to where they're ready to jump into a module, fabulous, go for it. And there are so many free resources. I mean, if you just go to nationaldb.org, all you have to do is type the word in. It searches their entire library. And the work that's been done with the deafblind projects all over the nations are amazing. So, and Megan Trescott is in the Alabama position now. She took my position from before, so we do have somebody in that position. But I also work closely with the deafblind projects in the Southeast and the regions that we cover. And I know in my former position that I would come to some transition meetings with some of you guys, especially because I think it is such a big deal, and I don't think it can be overstated how you guys are the rock stars. Like, I mean, some of y'all's folders, I was like, okay. And, you know, your organization, just know that I took some of that back and started using some of that. I know I went a few times with different people, but then that person, having that person to go to a school IEP with them, I'm still getting those IEP meeting requests. And if I can work it into my new role, if they need some equipment for CAT, or there's something I need to help with, then I'm happy to do it. But I'm also happy to mentor Megan and bring her along too. So please don't think just because I've changed positions that I'm not willing to help you or come along. And if you were to get a kid next week, you'll be like, Jennifer, I don't have a deafblind kid. I'm not, you know, but then you get that one next week, give me a call. Because, you know, there's a lot of things that we can be doing when they're little. A lot of exciting things to get them to explore as much as possible. That tummy time is so important. Any other questions? Yes. Okay, that's a great question, Stephanie. Everybody hear that? Just basically, how can I get out there to help you guys? So right now in Real, it's more of a train the trainer, like what we're doing right now. But I know that Suzanne would, if there was someone who specifically wanted to talk about that. Now, on my CAT side is really probably more of where we would take that. And do reach out to me directly, and then I will send you a request link. And we will put that request link in. You'll put my specific name in there. I'll be assigned to you. Has automatic follow-up. On the CAT side, I've been to Knoxville 2 times this year after meeting a family, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So really, I'm just taking kind of this deaf-blind position from Alabama to Southeast. So, but if you do have something, even if you're like, well, maybe not right now, but in 6 months, make the appointment right now, because I am literally booking for 6 months from now. So get in touch with me quick.